Hello, welcome everyone to the second episode of our series known as ReWrites, where we take an episode of Star Trek or popular culture, maybe at some point, that is widely panned by audience and we fix it. The format, if you missed our first episode that was live at Kittimer, it's pretty simple. Myself and my fellow panelists joining me tonight will have a few minutes to pitch our ideas about how we would take one particular episode that we have decided beforehand. And we would pitch how we would fix it, how we would make it better. But to avoid us running off in these wild and fantastical directions, we've got some basic rules that we must always follow. Those rules are that it must attempt to retain some coherent resemblance to the original episode, and it should be relatively suitable and on theme for the original program's audience and style. So no wild, off-the-wall space Gregs today, please. Before we dive into our first full set of pitches, I'm going to allow my panelists to introduce themselves, starting with Pheebs. Tell us about yourself and what you love and hate about brains.
About brains in general. Love that as a question. Hello, I'm Pheebs, and I am a writer with Obsidian Fleet and also a GM now. I have a Star Wars game, as well as writing in some Star Trek games, and an X-Men game. And I love anime and all things nerdy. So that's me. And what I love about brains is that we don't fully understand them. What we thought were like cohesive centers for various functions within the body has proven to be incorrect, and the brain can remap and relearn when sections are damaged. I find that fascinating. Is neural programming.
Very good. Over to Becca. Introduce yourself and what you love and hate about brains.
How can I top that? I'm Becca. I'm a GM. I'm part of Joint Fleet Command for Obsidian Fleet. I'm also the co-host of this at some points, as well as Women of Nerd Culture. I am a GM of many different fandoms between Star Trek, zombies, and Dragon Riders of Pern. And what do I like about brains? I like that the brains for a neurodivergent person like myself are mysterious, and we are still discovering things every single day. And even if you've got two people with the same condition, neurodivergent condition, they depends on whether they're male or female and how it interacts with their bodies and hormones and all those mystical things in the body. Yes. What about you, Paul? What do you like about the brain?
What do I like? Well, I'll introduce myself properly. I'm Paul. I am also a GM in Obsidian Fleet, and I write on loads of stuff that is too numerous to name. Everything, everywhere, all at once. What do I like about brains? Brains are weird. Brains are weird and unique and mushy and delicious. Brains. Sorry, I drifted off a little bit there. Yes, thank you both. If you haven't figured it out yet, our episode that we are attempting to rewrite this time is the original series episode Spock's Brain, much lamented as one of the worst episodes of Star Trek ever.
It's not lamented, it is a fact.
I think it's been well established.
It's a fact.
Before we started recording this, Becca did express her feelings about this episode quite strongly.
I am very angry that the community made me watch this. Okay? I am very, very angry because it is a really bad episode, and I'm really disappointed that it was a season premiere episode, or at least that's what my Netflix tells me. It was a season premiere. They started season 3 with this episode. Why?
I think it was. I have in my notes. It says it was episode 6 of season 3.
On Netflix, it comes up as episode 1. I might have been asleep when I watched it.
Maybe Netflix are just trying to get the bad ones out of the way for
season 3. I was fuming. I was literally fuming at this episode. I'm so cross.
Well, for those people who haven't, who maybe need a reminding of what the episode is without watching it, the original series of Star Trek episode, in sort of summarized briefly, an alien woman invades the Enterprise, and everyone gets knocked unconscious, and the crew, when they wake up, discover that Spock's brain has been stolen, completely removed from his body, and with only 24 hours to recover it before his body dies, Kirk and the crew discover this planet of Morgs and Imorgs. I think I'm pronouncing that right. The latter of whom, these Imorgs, a bunch of women, I believe, have put Spock's brain to use as a controller in a computer that runs their planet. I think I've summarized it as briefly as I can there.
Yeah, that's not a bad
That's
summary.
pretty good.
Great stuff. So, we didn't determine beforehand who's going to go first with their pitches. Would either of you like to volunteer how you would go about fixing Spock's brain?
I'll go.
Go
Just
on,
because
Becca.
I want to get it out of the way.
Yeah,
I want to get it out of the way. Okay. How I would fix this episode is making it a full-on horror. Okay. Because there are points in this episode, and I think, why have they done that? Why have they gone that route? They could have gone comedy. They could have done anything they wanted to, but they went this mismatch of different themes. And it made me angry. So I would very much rewrite this as a horror. So let's get to the top of my notes. There we go. And I've called it Spock's Brain, a Mind in Darkness.
Ooh.
So Act 1, we start with the silent intruder. The Enterprise is drifting through space, pretty much like how it starts now. The bridge is dimly lit. It's night. Because I really get annoyed around Star Trek and the fact that they don't have any difference in the lighting. And I think, a little bit of mood lighting would go a long way. And we've got the monitors. You've got Uhura, who's at the monitors, the usual subspace chatter. And then they get the proximity alert, blares through the ship. A vessel, small and unremarkable, it appears from nowhere. There's no warp signature and no approach detected. Just suddenly there. Before Kirk can order any hailing frequencies, the systems on the ship start to flicker. The lights dim, the hum of the engines stutter, and a shape materializes on the bridge. It's the same woman as we see in the original episode. She's beautiful, but she is wrong. She's flawless. Her skin's really smooth, but her eyes do not blink, because I feel like these women in this original episode, they're just not scary enough. They're there and they are just so simple, and it really bugs me. So in my version, they're exactly the same, beautiful and stunning, but they're a bit freaky. They're just blinking and they're just staying and they're just not doing anything that you think. And she strides forward without acknowledging the crew, and she goes towards Spock, and Kirk's like, who are you, but she just doesn't answer. She raises a finger and reaches for Spock's forehead, and then Spock gasps, and then he falls to the floor. The woman turns, a satisfied grin on her face, and she presses on, the thing on her wrist. Did we ever find out what the thing was called on the wrist?
Fancy bracelet.
Fancy bracelet. Okay, so she presses the fancy bracelet, and in an instant, she vanishes, and the power and the ship flicker back to life. McCoy rushes over to Spock, scanning him, and the readings don't make sense. His heart beats, his lungs functioning, but his brain waves are just gone. And McCoy's like, Jim, his brain is missing. So we've got Spock's body. He's alive, but he's vacant. And they kind of say, oh, well, his body's running out of muscle memory, because I just feel like there was no explanation around this. It was just very simple. They were like, he's got no brain. There was no kind of lead up to it. There was nothing kind of going. And then I've got kind of the same type of things. They kind of follow the ship. They get to the planet. And obviously they beam down. You've got Kirk, McCoy, Scotty, the usual red-shirted security officer, and they're guiding Spock's empty body. They descend into tunnels. And as they go deeper and deeper, they feel the same sense of wrongness that they did with the woman on the ship. And then they kind of hear it. It kind of starts to get a little bit freakier. They have like the whispering. And what I've got in this is we kind of have a sense of the freakiness very, very quickly, instead of having the men that attack them, because I don't think they're needed in this episode. My horror episode, they are not needed. You kind of have previous controllers all around. You've got the bodies all around. I know it's ever so slightly freakier than 60s Trek, but I think I can get away with that. And then they kind of following the tunnel down, and they get to a vast chamber, and you've got all these other controllers there, barely breathing, with wires. And in the cable in the center is Spock's brain. And then obviously in the third act, you've got the crew realize they're not alone in this this chamber. You've got the woman that they met on the bridge. She comes out, and you've got more of them. They're all eerie, you know. I feel like this episode could have been very, very good, and I kind of almost want to use it in my new Trek universe as a precursor to the Borg, because I want this moment. I want there to be a moment when you've got all these humanoids in their robes and they're all stood there and they're all talking, but they're all slightly out of sync. You know, when they say we are the Borg, and it's ever so slightly just all out of sync.
There's a slight echo as well.
Yeah. I kind of feel that is kind of the vibe of this episode that could have been done if they had me on their writing team instead of some of the people that they had for this very, very bad episode that I never want to watch again. And then we get the usual Kirk. We get he's demanding answers. He's raising his phaser. You know, it's the figures that don't react. Instead, they extend their hands towards the massive brain-like structure that's all around them. Your friend thinks first now, they state. Spock's voice echoes around the chamber, but it's not his voice. It's kind of distorted, very much like the Borg. Very much overlapping with all these other voices. And he goes, Jim, I'm awake in the dark. Get me out. Obviously, more Spock-like because I can't do Spock's accent to save my life. And obviously McCoy is moving around the machinery. He's trying to work out what's going on. No one kind of tries to stop him, and they explain in this eerie monotone voice that they once lived above ground, very much like in the original series, and then something came from beyond the stars, and then it devoured its thoughts, it devoured us, and this is what we've now been left with. To survive, they sealed their minds away, linking them to a single intelligence, which is kind of why I wanted the Borg to be involved, because I thought this could be in my imaginary universe, Trek universe. It's kind of the vibe I kind of got from this episode, where they have this technology to, you know, control brains and like create this like controlling system. I was just like, Borg. I was literally lying in bed and I was like, this is going to be a Borg episode. And I was like, oh wait, we're about 40 years too soon. It's not going to be that. But yes, so as they carry on, Kirk realizes that if they remove Spock's brain from the system, the society dies. And McCoy in his little, you know, snappy voice, he goes, then they should have found a better donor. And he activates his surgical kit. He's like, I want my friend back. But at that moment, as McCoy starts to try and make a change to the control panel, the whispers become screams, and everything kind of freezes, and the walls around them begin to move. It's very kind of like when they're on some of the ships sometimes, and you've got all the drones moving around, and yeah, it's kind of it's very much a creepy vibe. And then in the middle of this chamber, the mass of this brain unravels, and it's not Spock's brain that's in the middle. Well, it's not alone. It's a creature. It's the creature that they were whispering around, because I don't see in this original episode, I do not understand how this happened, unless I was that sleep deprived that I didn't realize what was going on. I don't understand what caused these two societies to be separate. So I felt like in my rewrite, I needed just a hint of something, just to see kind of why it all happened this way. And then I've kind of wrote it very much as McCoy is very frantically trying to work. He's realized that he can do the surgery. But if he does it, like the hive mind collapses. And then it's kind of very, very creepy. Like, just I've kind of wrote this episode as very, very creepy and very, very, I don't want to say horror, because I think I've maybe gone for more 90s horror than 70s horror, but I think it's my story and I can write it how I want.
I think it works.
Yes. So I kind of have the end of it very, very similar to how we've got. They kind of get Spock's brain, but then I've kind of very much changed the ending. You know, they've got the creature kind of lunges at them, but they get Spock's brain off this controller, and it kind of stops everything. And then I've got McCoy. He's back on the Enterprise. He's doing the most delicate surgery of his life. Hours pass. The crew waits. It's very, very tense. And then Spock's eyes flutter open, and he goes, "Fascinating." His voice, very calm as usual, but something's not quite there. Kirk smiles relieved. McCoy's happy. He's like, "Welcome back, Spock." But as sort of Spock sits up, his expression steals, and his kind of gaze just drifts off just for a couple of moments. And Kirk's like, "Spock," and Spock blinks, looks at him, and he's like, "Oh, Captain, I'm here." And then I've kind of got it in his dark Vulcan eyes for a moment. Kirk swears he sees movement, a flicker of something watching. Dun dun dun. There we go. Ooh. There we go. That is the mastermind that came to me when I was very, very sleep deprived. So apologies if it's gone too far off the track. Yeah.
No, I think that's within the rules of on track, and I love the idea of like a Borg precursor, like the civilization that comes before the Borg.
Yes,
is the iMorg.
It almost sounds similar, doesn't it?
Almost sounds alike. It sounds like it could be.
We are the Morg. Oh,
yeah.
That's very Doctor Who.
This is a bit Doctor Who.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Pheebs. I love the idea that it's like a very distant precursor to what the Borg might be in the future.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think it's dead on track with the Borg. I think maybe like this is kind of the Borg in their format now. What do they called it?
Assimilate.
That's the word I'm looking for. That's what happens, and then that's kind of how we kind of get the Borg that we know and love. It's my headcanon.
I like it.
Thanks. It might become an Atlantis mission now.
Yeah. I think it'd be a great one. I also love the residual something behind the eyes. That you're never quite sure if Spock's himself or something else. I kind of
refuse to believe that this episode did not do some type of damage to my little Vulcan. I refuse to believe it.
The only other way I would pitch it is to do it as like a Spock playing a prank on McCoy.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. I could see him dragging that out for a few weeks as well.
100%. 100%.
I know people
just
do that.
Gaslighting McCoy.
I think that's like a ship's, that's a ship's game. That's what they do.
Yeah.
As most Star Trek episodes happen. Yeah.
And this is why McCoy drinks.
And we listen and we do not judge.
Oh well, thank you for your pitch, Becca. That was fantastic. Really appreciated that. Pheebs, which one should I go first next, Pheebs, or would you like to go next?
You're very welcome to go next if you. It depends. You're the host, my friend. So
yeah. I don't mind. I can go next, and then I could.
Lovely.
Because you won last time, so I feel like I should save the best.
Oh yeah, I forgot that there's a winner.
We don't know. We don't know if it's the best. That might have been a fluke, but we'll find out.
The competition was strong. Okay. I'll drive into my pitch for Spock's brain done in my style. I'm actually going to dip into. I'm going to really go kind of full Gene Roddenberry with this, trying to keep it on theme. I don't know if anyone's heard of Earth 2. There was an old kind of
vaguely very long time ago.
Starring the main character was called Dylan Hunt, who ended up being the captain on Andromeda, which is another Gene Roddenberry show. So I'm kind of borrowing a little bit from early Gene Roddenberry ideas here to kind of keep it on theme. So in my pitch, opening of the episode is similar but slightly different. Alien woman, beautiful, however she looks, still appears on the ship and knocks everyone out. However, rather than just taking Spock's brain, she abducts him completely. She takes the body too. So it's not just taking his brain out of his body, we're taking Spock. The first act of the episode probably plays out in a fairly similar manner. They find this signal from a nearby planet. We have the classic landing party with red shirts and galore, and they meet these Morgs who are all men on the surface. And it's not really until they meet the Imorgs that things start to properly diverge. So in my version of this episode, the Imorgs are intelligent, properly intelligent, and not simple and docile. But there's only very few of them left, maybe a few dozen of the Imorgs left, but there's like hundreds of Morgs still roaming on the surface. In their planet, I've done some backstory because I know that you said that we didn't have enough backstory on this planet.
Yeah,
Right, I've got
like
backstory for the planet. In their planet's history, their planet was super violent a long time ago. You know, one of these kind of societies that, yeah, a lot of conflict and stuff. And so, at a certain point in their history, their society's women turned around and said, "Actually, it's all the men's fault. We're going to stop the men from messing everything up, and we're going to take over." And they used a special technology to suppress the kind of angry tendencies and the kind of hostile and almost the intelligence of the men on their planet. However, to power that, to kind of make that happen, they needed a system, a technology that had to be intelligent and powered itself. And they needed a highly intelligent brain to do so, like a supercomputer brain. Now, I'm leaning a bit into the Matrix here, so slightly before the Matrix was a thing, but they essentially wanted to use a brain like a processor in a similar way to the Matrix uses human bodies and brains for fuel
Like
or
batteries.
energy or whatever. Yes. So their old, so you know, we get to now their old brain is breaking down. It's dying out. So they went out searching for an intelligent enough brain that would run their computer for a long time. Spock, smartest man in the area, probably. His lifespan will also be quite extended. So they were like, "Yep, got it. We'll take Spock." So they've taken his body and his brain. I'm not separating them out at all in this one. For me, that's a stupid idea. So they've hooked him up to this control machine, a little bit like you see in the Matrix, like thing straight in the brain. And so that he's running the computers, and Scotty and McCoy are kind of very quick to kind of go, "Can't pull the plug, it'll kill him. What do we do?" So while this is going on, they start to realize that the effects of this planet's technology are going to start to affect the landing party as well. So they're starting to lose a little bit of their intelligence and tendencies. And like we have like a couple of random red shirts who start going like a bit caveman-y and a bit stupid. And I've called so we basically that introduces this kind of race against the clock idea. So we don't have the 24 hours to restore him. It's more we need to do this because the longer we stay here, the less chance there is that we're going to be able to fix the problem, and we're all going to fall prey to it. So there's also going to be a new character in this. One of the Morgs, dumbed down, kind of not very bright servant, I'm going to call him. He's a bit of the help to the Imorgs, that they keep him around to do kind of the heavy lifting and stuff. I'm going to call him Chris for the sake of this pitch, with a K. So he's seeing all this going on. He's seeing he's seeing the Enterprise crew, and he's like he's kind of confused because these guys are smart. These are really intelligent men. That's really unusual. What's going on here? And he starts to get very curious about this, despite his poor intelligence. But he's obviously still very devoted to Kara, I think her name is, the Imorg. And despite his intelligence, he's kind of still very loyal, very much on their side. I've got a job to do. This is my life, type thing. The leader of the Imorgs in this version, she's not particularly villainous. She comes off a little bit villainous in the episode. I think actually I give her a kind of point of argument to say, you know, their systems worked for generations. You know, the planet is not violent anymore. The system they have keeps order and structure. So while Spock is a kind of sacrifice. It's an important one to keep their society going. She's kind of maybe a bit misguided in believing that intelligence and peace can kind of so this whole idea that forcing the subjugation of the men is the only way to achieve peace. And kind of we'll have the classic kind of scene where Kirk is arguing with her a bit, and then we can insert an optional scene where he kind of gets his shot off and seduces her, and they have a snog or whatever. Optional. Trying to stick to the theme of the episode. McCoy and Scotty actually then end up making contact with Spock's brain. He speaks through this controller machine to them as per the original episode. He's got access to a lot of the machinery. He's starting to figure things out from the inside, but he can't extract himself. Now he does reveal this teacher machine from the original episode, again trying to stay on theme, and says this machine, this teacher, could be used to enhance the intelligence of someone long enough to extract him. But he says, he's concerned that without a brain in place, the controller will still shut down and render the technology completely useless. Of course, Kara and the Imorgs turn around and like, no way, no chance. They're going to try and threaten to lock up the landing party. They do the whole kind of, landing party's captured thing. At this point, our little caveman Chris kind of starts to have some ideas. He's heard this whole conversation. He's seen what's gone on, and he's been inspired by Kirk and the kind of intelligent men. And he wants to fix things, and he's so devoted to the Imorgs that he wants to be the one to save them. So before anyone can stop him, he uses this teacher machine, gaining the knowledge to free Spock. Despite everyone's protestations, he releases Spock from the controller and immediately takes Spock's place in the machine, essentially self-sacrificing to enable the future of the society to continue. Everyone's very shocked as well.
Such a Chris move.
Such a Chris move. Everyone is immediately shocked when the docile kind of field, shall we call it, the effect, starts to wear off. He's turned off that part of the machine. Speaking through this controller, he tells everybody that actually the Morgs, he's one of the Morgs. He knows them. He knows they're not all violent and destructive. He's proven just by his own action that they can be brave, that they can be compassionate, they can be willing to sacrifice when needed. So he agrees with Kara that he will help them build the new future of their society based on equality and not subjugation of one part of their society. We have the whole message in there. Do you know what I mean? Like a social message. Enterprise crew returns to the ship with Spock now recovering. Insert closing scene where Kirk and McCoy make a joke at Spock's expense and he raises an eyebrow. End credits.
Very good. Loved it.
You get extra points because you kept closest to the theme.
Close enough.
I personally loved Chris's journey.
Yes. It's a hero journey.
There's a hero's journey there for Chris. The noble sacrifice, genuinely felt quite moved by.
Without sausage roll in sight.
Without a sausage roll in sight, yet he's still a hero.
It could have been epic with a sausage roll though.
I thought that was very I like that.
Yeah.
And I like the having that little bit of backstory to the planet and the Morg lore.
Yeah, it's needed. It's what this episode is just completely missing.
Really
there is
does.
no backstory to explain anything.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely needs a bit more lore.
Morg lore.
Morg lore.
That's a new phrase we're going to keep.
I know, and I keep saying it because I'm just enjoying saying
Morg
it. Morg lore.
And then we have Chris with Morg lore, because he's northern.
Yeah. Nice.
There's nothing wrong with I. It's got into my vocabulary.
Vernacular.
Yes, both written and spoken. I'm no longer southern.
I don't know. I quite liked your impression of a West Country Spock.
Thanks, fan.
You're welcome.
Excellent.
Could have been Daru.
Excellent. That's going in the shorts.
Yeah. No, I thought it was good, and I like the taking his whole body as well, because and I'm kicking myself for not thinking of that because when I was watching it, I was like, this is just silly.
Yeah.
why have they separated his brain from his perfectly working body? Why not
It
just
makes
knock him
no
out?
sense.
And the fact that this technology doesn't come up ever again.
Yeah,
That we can actually do this.
They haven't then got like brains in jars on the bridge.
It makes me so angry. I feel like this could have been the start of a Futurama. You know,
Yeah.
The head in the jar museum. Yeah. Which Leonard Nimoy is in.
Perfect.
Oh
Yeah,
dear.
No, wise move, keeping the brain in the body.
Well, it's
For sure.
sensible, isn't it?
Yeah. What are these chicks thinking?
That's my pitch done. That's 2 down, 1 to go.
Okay.
Pheebs, the stage is yours.
I
Knock us
know,
away.
and I feel like the bar is high, so I will
Go
do
on.
my best. So welcome to my version of Spock's Brain Rewrite, which I also gave an alternative title called Far Below the Glass Ceiling. So for the last... So the whole premise obviously feels a lot like, oh no, what happens when you left women in charge? So we're getting rid of that immediately. Immediately they go. So for me, the morgues are the guys, and the
Yep.
iMorgs are the ladies, right? So
Yep.
the iMorgs in this they're highly competent, extremely dangerous, and very rational. And last time I leaned into like a gothic horror vibe. This time I'm going Cold War psychodrama, like sci-fi psychodrama. So we start with the opening scene being the same thing. We begin to change things as the woman shows up. She doesn't show up in some disco attire. She comes fully armed combat gear, because this is an infiltration expert sent from a highly technological, capable civilization. So she comes onto the bridge, everyone gets knocked out. And here, this is where I sort of make the first lot of changes. So I think in the original Spock's Brain, you see an awful lot of tell but not showing. Whereas I would also, like you did, Becca, have the seeing people wake up, seeing the discovery of Spock. Chapel is the first to wake. And actually what you notice is the women are the first to wake on the ship. So they are then responsible for waking up the men. So there's something about this technology that deliberately targets Y chromosome. That's the male chromosome, right? Yeah. Y chromosome. Yeah, whatever the boys have that we don't, it's targeting that. And so the women have to quickly solve the problem. They wake people up. Chapel realizes Spock has no brain. She hooks him up to life support. She's the one to explain everything to the captain when he comes round. And from there, we start to kind of do the hunting through space. We do that whole like tracking down a signal, trying to figure out which planet it is. But instead of having one away party, we split into 2. So in one party, we have McCoy and Sulu going down with Chekhov. So they go off onto one planet. And then we have Chapel and Uhura going to another planet. They're the ones who find the right civilization for the iMorg. But at the same time, we're finding out clues about the iMorg in this particular system with the second away team, with McCoy and with... So they're what they're doing is they're finding the backstory of how this came to be. And Chapel and Uhura are infiltrating the civilization and doing some cool fighting stuff. Because I don't feel like none of the women get some cool fights, and I think that would be fun. Some girl-on-girl violence. So cut to the culprits. You've got, so the first of all, actually, let's do the male away team first. So what they discover, very similar to you, Paul, I've gone for violent past causes a sundering of civilization. The women retreat far below the glass ceiling, hence the title, underground, and actually begin to farm the men. So they use a biological based technology, and the men, they've basically created planets in the system with male populations that they farm for bits for technology. So
Thought you were going Soylent Green for a second there.
There's a little bit of Soylent Green, there's a little bit of Cylons, but the idea is that the men are kind of almost like fodder to this iMorg society underground. But what they've discovered is that the male gene, because of this like over eugenics kind of creation, has started to degrade. So because they've been trying to breed more docile men, trying to like selectively breed certain traits, it's causing the kind of the biological components that they need to be to become unstable and to kind of be less resilient or something, and that's causing them to have to seek out other alien life forms to try and introduce into their technology to counteract the effects so that they can continue to work in this system. Meanwhile, Uhura and Chapel have infiltrated the underground base. It's all very spy technology. There's none of this negotiating with people who are clearly kidnappers and clearly extremely dangerous. There's also none of this, oh, it's a childlike civilization that somehow hasn't collapsed. Like, there's none of that. Like, all the women there are extremely competent, extremely dangerous. Eventually, they fight their way through to a sort of command center and come like head to head with this high priestess type presidential figure, who begins to try to have some sort of negotiation with the two women. So she draws on parallels between her civilization and Earth's history. She's trying to like persuade the women that, you know, like, this is the, like, you know, Spock himself would say the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Like, they're kind of leaning into all of that philosophical debate. And then so Uhura's like keeping the president talking. Meanwhile, Chapel's sneaking around the side, kind of just like, you know, they're kind of working as a team, lots of collaboration, women like supporting women. It's really like satisfying and touching. And then and as they kind of like start to unpack this crisis, and as you have like the other away team explaining things to the Enterprise, Chapel manages to hack into the system and starts the process of releasing Spock's brain. There's like then that obviously sets off all the alarms. There's lots of blaring. The men are trying to like get through to rescue Uhura and Chapel. Uhura and Chapel are like, no, we've got to save Spock. So they like refuse to teleport out until they grab his brain, which is conveniently in a jar. However, neither of them are left unscarred by the situation. Eventually, Uhura, who's been deeply troubled by what she's witnessed and how the kind of society has played out, and then also deeply troubled by the fact when they get back to the ship, Kirk puts in a report where he takes all of the credit for their hard work and doesn't even it's such a typical Kirk move, and doesn't even like acknowledge, let alone like he doesn't acknowledge like McCoy and Sulu's input, but he definitely doesn't acknowledge Uhura and Chapel's input. And Uhura and Spock share a moment on the bridge, and that's how my story ends, is they share a moment on the bridge. Spock's fully recovered. They're listening to Kirk put in his report. Uhura tries to correct one of the details that Kirk is putting in his report, and Kirk kind of tells her to kind of mind her business vibe, like back to your duty, Uhura. And they share a moment, and for the first time, Spock sees how horribly misogynist the ship's culture has become in the wake of what he's experienced. And then the credits roll, and next week nothing's changed.
It's so Star Trek.
It's so Star Trek, but also feels like very much like a damning indictment to us as a civilization.
So much.
Like you have one spark of recognition from Spock, but it doesn't change anything in the long run.
No,
there we go.
I love it.
That's my story. And my one thing is that throughout the whole thing, Uhura doesn't parrot or repeat anything. She has her own dialogue where she gets to, like, where other people copy her for once.
I love it.
That's my vibe.
No,
there we
it's
go.
It's a good vibe. And apologies, we've got a fourth guest.
Oh,
Someone's decided to wake up.
A little blurry peeking out of the rainbow curtain.
Yes.
It's the behind the eyes trick.
You know? Yeah. That is the alien life form in the background.
It's an alien life form behind Becca's eyes.
Yes.
I love that. I love the story of it. Do you know, I was thinking whilst you were talking about it, I was like, that, and this isn't a criticism, that would fit so much better in the Strange New World style than the TOS style.
I was very inspired by the Strange New World style, because I was thinking what this needs is a bit more Strange New World.
The Chapel and Uhura from Strange New World, 100% could see them going like Lady Commando.
100%.
Compared to Mael Barrett and Michelle Nichols, potentially.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I couldn't necessarily see them doing that, but that's not a criticism. That's just.
And also, Paul, how would we ever know? They were never given the chance.
Absolutely.
I think they if this would be a really good the animated series. episode.
That was the other thing I thought, because
Because-
you see their whole bodies moving
Yeah.
in the animated series,
Yeah.
whereas often you only ever see them like either sitting down or
Yeah.
like behind a sick
And Uhura and Chapel have a really good episode
Yeah.
in the animated series, and this would fit into it so much. So yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about
Great.
that one as well.
Yeah, I found it really hard to write a kind of more feminist narrative in the original series.
It's
vibes.
hard. It's really hard. It's so hard.
Couldn't do it, and I was so annoyed by it was, for me, like, I could forgive everything else in Spock's brain. For me, it was when I was like, oh, they're childlike, and I was like, fuck this.
Yeah. No, and I've got a full admittance. I did not watch the last 15 minutes because I got so angry over this. I was like, I don't want to know, because I did get really angry. I think that might have been the point where I did get angry, was the fact that they were like, oh, they're childlike.
They're childlike, as if they've like been able to like do all this subterfuge and stuff.
But
like,
what is it they say? They're deadly, but what is it? Deadly, but
oh, I wrote it down because it annoyed me so much. Oh no, it was. They're dangerous and irrational was what like they actually.
It was something else. It was something else that McCoy said, and I was like, okay, I'm done. I can't watch it anymore.
But at one point, someone does refer to them as dangerous and irrational, and I was just like, "Oh my god, I'll show you dangerous and irrational."
Yes.
And then that's when I was like, "Okay, so Uhura and Chapel go Lady Commando."
Yeah.
On all your asses.
I like this. I like this. Your rewrite of this, but it's not down to us to decide, is it?
Oh yeah, because we've got no live audience. How's this going to work, Paul?
So this will work. We'll probably put a poll in the Obsidian Fleet Discord and encourage people to watch this episode and vote for themselves. And we'll see what that comes out of. I'm not sure if we'll have that poll. Well, we should probably have that poll done before we film the next episode. I don't know. We'll see. See how the filming schedule goes.
It'll be out. Well, this episode is out this Saturday, so
potentially
it'll be out.
We'll see what happens with that one. Yeah. Okay. Any final thoughts on Spock's brain?
Don't make me watch it again, please. Because if I ever do the original series watch, I'm not watching it. I refuse.
You've already watched it once.
Yeah, I'm literally going to send people to this episode. This is now part of a future series. Okay, I'm not watching it again. This is part of a future series.
What I realised watching Spock's brain is I had a new profound sympathy for Paul, because he's committed to not only watching this bad episode but all of the bad episodes from all of the series.
I don't know who's stupider. I really don't.
I suddenly just thought, I was like, oh Paul, why are you doing this to
I need a
yourself?
teacher machine to tell me.
Who hurt you?
Get me out of this mess.
So no, but yeah, I agree. It wasn't great, and I was actually quite excited to. I think I volunteered to do Spock's brain because I was like, oh,
we both volunteered.
A Spock episode? How bad could it be?
Yeah, we both volunteered.
Yeah, you volunteered. Like,
I also volunteered for the last.
Vulcans.
I also volunteered for the last episode, and obviously I got poorly, so I'm actually really disappointed that I didn't get to do Tabula Rosa, because I like that episode.
Sub Rosa.
Sub Rosa, that's a Tabula Rosa.
Plug for that
Tabula
episode.
Rosa sounds super fancy.
That's my rewrite for it.
Go find that in our YouTube channel if you want to see another one of these, where Pheebs, Chris and I had a look at Sub Rosa. Coming up next in our filming schedule, I think we're looking at a Deep Space Nine episode next, to be confirmed. I'm not going to reveal at this stage which episode we're going to be looking at, but keep an eye out for that one in the coming weeks. I think that's a good place to wrap. I just want to say a quick thank you to my fellow panelists, Pheebs and Bex, for your time.
Thank you.
I'm supposed to have an outro. I was told I needed an outro, so keep rewriting.